no one inside Buckingham Palace was prepared for the moment Queen Camilla's entire royal image began collapsing because of the one man who knew her before the crown, before the palace, before the cameras, her own ex-husband. And when Andrew Parker Bowles finally opened his mouth after decades of silence, the shockwaves did not just hit the monarchy, they ripped directly through King Charles himself. For years, the world believed the greatest royal love story of modern history was Charles and Camilla surviving impossible odds to finally sit together on the throne. That was the fairy tale sold to the public. The loyal woman waiting patiently for the man she always loved. The misunderstood romance that outlived scandal, betrayal, public hatred, even Princess Diana's shadow. But suddenly, Andrew Parker Bowles stepped into the freezing London rain and shattered that entire narrative with a single accusation so explosive it made Buckingham Palace fall silent overnight. According to Andrew, Camilla was never simply in love with Charles. She was allegedly obsessed with entering the royal family from the very beginning, not emotionally, strategically, carefully, patiently, like a woman planning a decades-long operation while everyone around her mistook it for romance. And what terrified Charles most was not the accusation itself. It was how specific the details sounded. Secret meetings, carefully arranged encounters, hidden schedules, unexplained disappearances, financial discussions nobody was supposed to know existed. The details did not sound emotional. They sounded organized. That was the part eating Charles alive behind palace walls while the public only saw carefully staged smiles in front of cameras. Britain immediately descended into chaos. Rumors exploded everywhere after Camilla vanished from public duties almost overnight. No appearances, no cheerful royal waves, no official explanation beyond vague palace language about health and rest. Meanwhile, Charles appeared alone looking exhausted, hollow, emotionally drained. Royal watchers noticed it instantly. His shoulders looked heavier, his eyes looked restless, even his smile appeared forced. And suddenly, Andrew Parker Bowles emerged after nearly half a century of silence with a press conference that sounded less like an interview and more like a confession buried for decades. Standing in front of television cameras, Andrew described a woman he claimed had been calculating her royal future long before the public ever suspected anything. He said Camilla allegedly spoke openly about becoming one of the most powerful women in Britain, not just because of love, because of status, influence, wealth, the throne itself. And then came the line that sent chills through the country. Andrew claimed Camilla had already begun planning control over royal assets even before marrying Charles. Suddenly, this was no longer gossip about romance. This sounded like palace infiltration. Buckingham Palace refusing to deny the claims only made everything worse. That silence became suspicious, dangerous, because royal families deny nonsense quickly. But this time, nothing came. No furious legal statement, no aggressive media counterattack, just silence. Ancient palace walls holding their breath while Charles reportedly replayed Andrew's words again and again alone in his study. Imagine the psychological destruction happening inside his mind. The man had sacrificed relationships, public reputation, family peace, and even the stability of the monarchy itself for Camilla. He fought the world to place her beside him on the throne, and now doubts were spreading through him like poison. Camilla reacted fast. Too fast, perhaps. She appeared before cameras angrily dismissing everything as bitterness from a jealous ex-husband who never recovered from divorce. Her voice stayed controlled, but observers noticed something strange beneath the confidence. Tension, fear, irritation. She insisted her only goal had ever been standing loyally beside Charles. Yet while she defended herself publicly, Charles reportedly began something much more dangerous privately. A secret investigation. Quiet, invisible, ruthless. Late at night inside Clarence's house, Charles allegedly replayed Andrew's claims repeatedly while examining unexplained gaps in Camilla's early schedules after their marriage. Missing hours, secret trips, unrecorded destinations, entire blocks of time erased from official logs. That was when suspicion stopped being rumor and became obsession. Charles reportedly ordered his most trusted advisors to investigate every unexplained movement from the first years of their marriage. Every meeting, every absence, every hidden detail, and he demanded absolute secrecy. Not even Camilla could know. 3 days later, the results reportedly arrived. Thick files, missing timelines, trips with no official purpose, entire days disappearing into silence. Charles allegedly stared out at Buckingham Palace gardens, realizing the woman he trusted most might actually be the greatest mystery in his entire life. But the deeper investigators went, the darker the story became. Because, according to Andrew, this all began decades earlier in the 1970s when Camilla was still married to him. The public always heard the romantic version. Young Charles falls deeply for Camilla at a party. The palace rejects her. Their love gets destroyed by royal duty. Camilla marries Andrew while Charles eventually marries Diana. Tragic timing. heartbreak, destiny delayed. But Andrew painted something far colder. He claimed Camilla never emotionally moved on from Charles because she saw him as her future path upward. He described secret meetings, late-night disappearances, suspicious excuses, whispered conversations about long-term plans. According to him, their marriage slowly transformed into a cover story, while her real emotional and strategic focus remained fixed on Charles. Then came the alleged confrontation that still haunts royal insiders. Andrew waking in the middle of the night. Camilla is gone. A photograph of her and Charles together hidden away. Andrew confronts her in fury, asking whether he had merely been used as camouflage while she pursued the future king. And, according to Andrew's version, Camilla responded with chilling calmness, allegedly admitting Charles was the only path toward the life she truly wanted. If true, that moment changes everything the world thought it knew about this royal triangle. Suddenly, Andrew was not merely the forgotten ex-husband. He was potentially the man who witnessed the beginning of an empire built in secret. What shattered Charles even more was the realization that Camilla was allegedly already moving against him while he was still desperately trying to protect her publicly. According to Palace Whispers, the moment she sensed an investigation had begun, she switched instantly into survival mode. Phones started ringing late at night. Former staff members suddenly vanished abroad. Old associates became unreachable. Some reportedly fled to Switzerland. Others disconnected numbers entirely. It looked less like innocent confusion and more like somebody cleaning a crime scene before investigators could arrive. And every disappearing witness only pushed Charles deeper into paranoia. Inside Clarence's house, the atmosphere reportedly became unbearable. Camilla still attempted to behave like the loving royal wife in public, but behind closed doors, Charles had already emotionally withdrawn. One private dinner between them allegedly exposed just how broken everything had become. Camilla tried calming him down, insisting Andrew was financially desperate and inventing stories out of revenge. She reportedly reached for Charles's hand, speaking softly about loyalty, sacrifice, and everything they had endured together. But this time, Charles pulled away, quietly, coldly, and that small movement terrified her more than shouting ever could. Because Camilla suddenly realized the one thing she always depended on, Charles's blind devotion, was beginning to disappear. Then came the moment insiders describe as the true breaking point. Charles allegedly received a private audio file sent directly from Andrew Parker Bowles himself. A recording hidden for over 20 years. A recording Andrew allegedly kept as insurance. Charles reportedly locked himself inside his study and listened alone. And when Camilla's voice filled the room, everything changed forever. According to the recording, she allegedly discussed manipulating Charles's schedule, arranging private meetings without Andrew discovering them, and carefully positioning herself beside the future king during public appearances. Not emotionally, strategically, every movement sounding rehearsed, controlled, methodical. Charles reportedly replayed the recording 4 times while cross-checking dates with gaps already uncovered in palace schedules. Every detail matched perfectly. That was the moment the fairy tale finally died inside him. Because Charles could no longer dismiss it as bitterness from a jealous ex-husband. The timelines aligned, the secret meetings aligned, the unexplained absences aligned. Even the language inside the recording allegedly matched witness testimonies from former staff. Imagine the horror flooding Charles's mind. The woman he defended against the world for decades, now appearing less like a soulmate and more like someone who slowly maneuvered herself toward power while he mistook ambition for devotion. And then fate delivered the cruelest timing imaginable. Camilla reportedly walked into the room just moments after Charles finished listening. She smiled at first, apparently unaware of what he had just heard. But insiders claim the atmosphere instantly froze. Charles stared at her differently, not with affection, not even anger yet. Worse, suspicion, disgust, emotional exhaustion. Camilla reportedly realized immediately that something catastrophic had shifted. No shouting, no dramatic explosion, just silence thick enough to suffocate the room. The kind of silence that tells you trust has already died before the argument even begins. According to the story, what destroyed him most was not merely the idea of infidelity. Charles had survived scandal before. What shattered him was the possibility that he had never truly understood Camilla at all. That maybe the woman he believed loved him unconditionally had actually viewed him as a pathway to influence, protection, wealth, and eventually the throne itself. Suddenly, every sacrifice he made looked different. Every argument with the royal family looked different. Every public humiliation looked different. Charles reportedly began questioning whether he had destroyed relationships and endangered the monarchy itself for an illusion carefully built around him over half a century. According to palace rumors, Camilla reportedly panicked hearing those words, because suddenly the entire structure she fought decades to build began collapsing in front of her eyes. She allegedly screamed that Charles could not discard her after everything they survived together. But insiders claim Charles never turned back toward her. He simply stood facing away while his shoulders shook slightly under the weight of heartbreak, humiliation, and fury. The man who once burned his world down to protect Camilla now allegedly viewed her as the greatest betrayal of his entire life. The next morning, Buckingham Palace released only a tiny statement announcing Queen Camilla would temporarily suspend public duties for health reasons. That was all. No photographs, no appearance beside Charles, no smiling reassurance. And immediately, Britain exploded into speculation. Crowds gathered outside palace gates. Some defended Camilla passionately. Others believed Andrew's story instantly. Social media descended into chaos. Television commentators dissected every detail. And through it all, Buckingham Palace remained terrifyingly silent, allowing rumors to spread like wildfire, because perhaps even they no longer knew how to contain the damage. Meanwhile, Andrew Parker Bowles reportedly sat quietly inside his private home after decades carrying bitterness in silence. Some people viewed him as a wounded husband finally exposing the truth. Others viewed him as an old man seeking revenge against the woman who left him behind for a king. But what made the situation so explosive was that pieces of his story allegedly kept matching real timelines, real schedules, and real palace patterns. That made everything feel less like gossip and more like hidden history finally leaking into public view.